What the heck is up, you guys? It's your boy Ace, aka Animated Heroes, here back with another action figure review. Now this time we're going to be a little bit late because, for one, it took me forever to get this figure due to the recall. We'll discuss a little bit more about that later, but here we finally have the Medicom toy, or MAFEX, the Batman action figure. And if you guys don't know, I say this all the time, I am the biggest Batman fan, despite this being primarily an anime channel. I have been waiting on this figure ever since the movie. It was my favorite movie of last year. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Robert Pattinson absolutely killed this role, and I'm already rambling. Let's go ahead and get right into it, starting off with the sexy ass packaging. Now, black and red is my favorite color combination, so automatically this packaging looks gorgeous to me. Now, when you add Batman to it, that just makes it all the better, man. You have the window where you can see the figure, some of the accessories. You got Robert Pattinson right there as Batman looking dope. You got the Batman logo, Medicom toy, MAFEX, the Batman action figure at the bottom. You got images all along the sides right here, up here. That one's actually from the movie. We got a full body image of him right here looking so sick in the suit. Nothing much going on at the bottom, and then once you turn the packaging around, you got a ton of stuff going on here, man. MAFEX goes crazy with their packaging, man. I love what they do, and I love all of these shots, man. Really, this black and red with Batman is just so sick. Like, I can't express that enough. This packaging alone looks so dope, and for that reason alone, I had to get a couple of these just because I want to keep one or two mint in box. Anyway, let's go ahead and bust this figure out because I've been waiting forever to talk about this. Now, one thing I want to say I love about being an action figure reviewer from time to time, it is always so amazing coming off of the enthusiasm of a previous figure review and transferring that energy right over to another one. Because if you guys watched my Orochimaru review, you guys already know Naruto is my bread and butter. And now we're moving right along to my favorite comic book character, Batman, and one of my favorite interpretations of him. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it. Robert Pattinson is the second best Batman. I put him over Keaton. I said what I said. I don't care what anyone says. Ben Affleck is gonna be my number one just because, come on now, Frank Miller to the T. And I just think Ben Affleck was so dope, and Robert Pattinson coming in that second place just because of how badass he was, how badass the movie was, how much it truly felt like this dark Gotham City that we really get in the comics, and how he really just dove into the character, man. I loved it so much. I love this suit, and now I love this figure. This is so sick, man. Medicom toy being my favorite comic book action figure line, whether they make live action figures or just the comic versions, they always do great, and this thing just looks, man, it's so much better than the SH Figure Arts. And I can understand why they made the mistake of putting Marvel on the back of the action figure. I checked mine out. It says DC and something else on there. They did update it, so at least I didn't wait and still get the Marvel copy, even though I would have preferred the Marvel copy. But what they meant to put was Masterpiece, because the movie was a masterpiece, and it's looking like this figure is about to be one. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at it. Now, first things first, the head sculpt. This face right here says, yo, run. If you see Batman looking at you like this, run. That's all there is to it. They did the helmet and everything so perfect, man. You can see the stitching right here along the front ends. The bat ears are just the right size. The shape and everything of the mask is so good. It just looks amazing. I love how they sculpted the more wider showing face. I do wish they would have went with, and this is just a design choice for the movie, but I wish they would have gone with more of his cheeks and everything being covered up, just because I feel like it kind of makes the figure look weird from time to time, but overall it still looks really good, man. They painted the face very nicely. He's got some stubble going on. I love what they did with the cape. It's this pleather like material, and yes, it is going to pose well when it comes to getting it in those like windswept poses. You're not going to have any issues with that. I love it. All of the armor, there is just a ton of sculpting and detail going on here. Like, I think this is the bat suit with the most detail to it. It just, there's so much, man. You got these armor plates along the chest, the arms, these black shoulder pads, all kind of line work, sculpting and detail going on in the gloves here, or the gauntlets. There's just so much, man. So many gadgets. And this is what makes Batman Batman. The gadgets. They got it right with this movie. Look at all the pouches and everything. The paintwork on everything is just so clean. You've got this little zip up piece right here where the wings comes out. And I can imagine this costume is probably hot as hell. Like, Robert Pattinson probably had to shower like 3-4 times getting out of this. But seriously, man, you got so much going on here. You got some sculpted wrinkles, all kinds of details, some blacks, some grays. Oh man, I love this. Silvers, all the way down to the boots. I think the boots are the most simplistic thing about this figure, and there's still a ton of sculpting detail in those. So this guy's just great, man. I feel like the feet should probably be a tad bit bigger, but in comparison to the SHF, the feet on that one were tiny, so I can live with this, man. This looks good. This just looks so phenomenal, and whoo, so far, contender for figure of the year. Anyway, let's put him back and see how tall he stands. Now, when it comes to the height, this figure is right at about 6.5 inches to the top of his bat ears, which I think that's about average size for Medicom MAFEX figures. I've seen this guy in some size comparisons with other figures, and it kind of looks like he towers over him. So I pulled out a bunch of figures, mostly Batman stuff, to compare him to, and we'll take a look at those later on in the video. Moving on to the articulation, I've heard that there are some weird but effective design choices with this one, and we're about to get right into them. First off, he looks up only about that much. You can't really expect more because of the cowl and the cape. It's just too much. But if you utilize the chest, that is going to help with those looking up poses. But that's where we run into probably the only design flaw that I don't care for. It is the gapping of the chest. Now, you can hide it a little bit, but no matter how you move it around, there is still going to be a bit of gapping in there. But we'll get to that later. Anyway, he looks down about that much, which isn't bad at all. All kinds of tilt, turn, and you can get him to be very expressive, so that's great. The arms only go out about that much just because of the shoulder pieces, but you can rotate them around, and that's going to help with getting him in those fighting poses that you want to. He does have a butterfly joint, so you can bring those arms in just fine. And I love that these shoulder plates are on, like, they seem like sturdy hinges. I don't really like these because I always feel like at some point they're gonna break, which that right there is another reason I always get 2 or 3 of these, because I don't like these shoulder joints. But that's with a lot of their figures. It's not just this Batman. But anyway, you can get him in driving poses if you want to put him in the Batmobile. Again, punching poses won't be a problem. He does have a bicep swivel, double jointed elbows that I felt a little weird. There it is. I don't know. It felt weird, but it's working. Okay, I thought we had a bad joint there. It just is a little stiff. Maybe I need to put this guy in some hot water. Anyway, hands are on a hinge, as you guys can see. There's going to be a little bit of hindrance just because of the gauntlets, but I mean, that makes sense. That's to be expected. Now back to the diaphragm joint. It works well. I mean, you can get him to move just fine. He leans forward about that much, back about that much, and then you can push it down to kind of hide that gapping in there. It's not extremely noticeable, but it is noticeable. So yeah, just be wary of that. Honestly, I would have been okay with them sacrificing the upper part of the articulation if they would have made up for it in the lower, which doesn't look like they could. So I don't know, maybe that was just a design choice that they couldn't have work. I don't know, but he does turn at the waist. Be very careful with that because it feels like it's pulling on the belt. You don't want this plastic to break, so just be careful when you're posing him around. Now when it comes to the legs, he kicks out all the way. I was thinking this diaper piece was going to kind of hold him back, but it didn't. It doesn't hinder the articulation at all. So McFarlane, y'all got some explaining to do, man. Now this is probably the weirdest choice I have seen with this figure, because it just looks weird when you have him in these kind of poses, which sucks because that means the kicking poses are going to look slightly off, and I'll show him posed up in one a little bit later. He does have a thigh swivel, but that is very Very weird. I don't know why they decided to go with this. It kind of came out of nowhere. Now, when it comes to the knees, he does have double jointed knees, but man, those kneecaps are big, man. That's different. It doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look great either. So I'm not gonna say that's perfect. It's not bad. Again, it does work. Now be careful because this figure does feel stiff. But anyway, foot goes down about that much, up about that much. Not the best side to side, but he does have a toe hinge also. So when you get down to the foot, that's where the limited articulation is going to kick in. It just feels a whole lot more stiff than the rest of the figure. Now when it comes to posing this guy up, if you want to get him fighting, you're not really going to have any problems with that. I mean, you can still get him in all the martial arts poses. You can get him blocking, dodging, whatever it is that you want to do. But again, those kicking poses, because of the way they did the legs on this guy, it can look a little weird. It's not too bad, actually. Yeah, that's kind of bad. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm not digging that at all. That's kind of whack. So I probably won't really pose him in any kicking poses. So that's kind of tough, man, because I really wanted this figure to be perfect in the articulation department. It's not bad, but these are just mistakes that MAFEX usually doesn't make. So that's a little strange. Anyway, let's go ahead and put him back and take a look at the accessories. Now, when it comes to accessories, MAFEX always kills it, but when it comes to this figure, they absolutely do not disappoint, because you can pose this guy literally doing every single thing he did in the movie. First off, he comes with a neutral head sculpt and a pair of fist hands right out of the packaging. He comes with so many hands, man. He comes with a pair of reaching, grabbing hands. He comes with a pair of slightly relaxed hands. He comes with several different hands for holding weapons, and I don't know what all of these are for, so I'm just gonna say weapon holding hands. He comes with, I guess, batarang holding hands, and then he comes with like these kind of martial arts type hands, and then these almost like trigger hands. Now he comes with one alternate chest plate. This is for whenever he pulls out the batarang. Here is the batarang itself, looking really dang good, man. He comes with two different back grapples. Here's one where the grapple hook is in the gun, and then he comes with one where it's in the pouch. This is not removable, and honestly, I don't think this piece right here is removable either. I tried to take it out, but it wasn't coming out, and I'm not about to force it. Now he comes with this thing right here. This is the only gadget I remember him holding it, but I don't remember what he did with it. I think it was like a miniature grapple gun or something. I don't know, but I remember him using it, and this was attached to his gauntlets. Now, if you look on the gauntlets themselves, you can actually see this is right here. Like, this little weapon that I just showcased is right here, which is why they gave him interchangeable gauntlets for whenever he's using it for both arms. Now, that is attention to detail. That's sick. Medicom toy. He also comes with his flare. I wish we had one that was red, but I am perfectly fine with this. And he comes with a mask, because you guys know he comes with an unmasked head. Two of them, to be exact. He comes with the emo eyes, and then he comes with one where he's kind of serious. I love both of these, man. I don't know which one I like more. They both look really damn good. It's just so good. And then probably the weakest thing that he comes with is his teeth gritted face. It's not bad, but it's not the best. This is just an expression I wouldn't take seriously from him. But yes, a boatload of accessories. This right here pleases me heavily. This makes it feel like it was a bang for my buck. I got everything I needed. Now, moving on to size comparisons, like I said, I just brought out a bunch of random stuff. Now, starting off here, we have several different DC Collectibles and McFarlane 7-inch figures. We have the DC Collectibles Batman Arkham Origins Batman on the far left. We have the McFarlane version of the Batman right in the middle, and as you can see, it's completely inferior. And then on the right, we have the old school DC Collectibles Batman Arkham Knight, and I hate that I missed out on that McFarlane. If anybody got that one, let me know. Now, it wouldn't be right if I didn't sprinkle in a couple of comic looks. Here he is standing next to the Medicom toy or MAFEX Dark Knight Returns 2-pack Batman. This is the blue and gray variant. We also have him standing next to the Batman Hush, which is also made by Medicom toy or MAFEX. And then on the far right, we have him standing next to the DC Icons Rebirth Batman, which is one that I hope MAFEX takes a crack at in the future as well, because that's going to be my favorite look. For a couple of randoms, here he is standing next to the SH Figuarts Injustice Harley Quinn, which this is her alternate costume in the game. We also have him standing next to the SH Figuarts Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, which is basically Christian Bale Batman. And then we also have him standing next to the Suicide Squad Jared Leto Joker, which I feel like he'd be more adept in fighting him versus the Heath Ledger version. I just feel like this Batman would go with this version of Joker. Maybe it's just something I would kind of enjoy seeing. That's my own personal preference. It is what it is. Now, for the people who would want to see it, here he is standing next to an SH Figuarts Heath Ledger Joker. As you can see, he towers over him the same way he towers over the SH Figuarts Will Smith Suicide Squad Deadshot. And then if you compare him to some 7-inch scale figures, here he is standing next to the Arkham Knight Scarecrow from DC Collectibles, and then Scarecrow's towering over him. So it's definitely going to be difficult to find some villains to pose him with. Hopefully, MAFEX will release some more characters from the movie. I'm surprised they haven't at least announced Catwoman, but I guess we'll see in due time. Now, when it comes down to my final thoughts for this figure, I gotta say, it's definitely not bad. As a Batman fan, I probably give it a pass in areas where I shouldn't. That's just my own personal bias, but I am willing to acknowledge the fact that it is definitely not perfect. There are some design choices that are beyond questionable. Most of them lie within the legs. And honestly, the legs are probably the worst part of this figure because the gapping at the torso isn't necessarily something that bothers me. It still helps with the articulation, and for the most part, if you pose him properly, the gapping isn't something that's really all that noticeable. But when it comes to the legs, you can get them in certain poses and the anatomy just looks extremely off, as it does right now. As you can see, the thighs aren't connecting properly, and it gives it more of a Revoltech-ish look, and I guess that's why I said Revoltech earlier in the video. Funny how I doubled back and that happened, but it wasn't intentional. But yeah, it just, sometimes it looks off. I do feel like the knees are a little too big. Now, I don't know if they could have done anything better or anything different on that one, but it kind of looks off. It gives it a domestic action figure look, and you guys know I'm an import collector. Like, I collect certain domestic things, but this just looks a little Hasbro-ish for me. A little Lightning Collection, Marvel Legend. I'm not feeling that. And the worst thing, though, the thighs, I don't like them. They do look weird, but the feet. This is one thing that I began to notice as I was posing him around after. The feet are probably the worst part of this figure because you can want to get him in certain dynamic poses, but the feet aren't exactly going to move the way you want them to because of the sculpt work. I tried to twist and turn them a little bit. Guys, I do not recommend doing anything with them before you heat them up. They felt very stiff, and honestly, I don't know, man. The design choice just makes them feel like they're destined to break the more that you pose them. And it sucks because he doesn't really have any ankle articulation on top of that. And if you're trying to force it, then you're pushing that plastic to limits that you probably shouldn't. And then eventually it's just going to snap. So the legs are the worst part of this figure for sure. And it's kind of funny because it was the exact same with the SH Figuarts. The legs were way too skinny and they weren't long enough. The proportions were completely off. And so I don't know what it is. Something about the legs on Robert Pattinson Batman figures people can't get right. Now, we still have one other company that is going to try it. That is going to be Mezco. You guys know I do not collect Mezco, but I'm going to try that one out. I'm going to experience it, see what it's all about. Do I expect it to be better than this? Hell no, but I'm still going to get it anyway and try to enjoy it. But overall, solid figure. Wait. One thing I forgot about, I wanted to mention, the Batarang. As you guys can see, that's why I haven't posed this way. The Batarang does not fit in any of the hands properly. As you can see, he's actually holding on to it in the middle instead of at the edges as he's supposed to. If I try to hold it at the edge, it's just going to fall out of his hand. And so that's another thing that kind of sucks, is that he doesn't hold this particular accessory properly, and he's only got one of them, so it's not like there's anything you can do. So yeah, the hands are a little too big, or the gapping between the pointer finger and the thumb is just a little bit too big for the batarang to hold. And I also saw the same thing in TF Nuts video, so it's probably a universal issue with this figure. But anyway, hope that you guys enjoyed this review. If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. That always helps me out. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Make sure to hit that bell icon to be notified whenever I upload new content. And last but not least, follow me on everything you see listed in the description below to keep up with my activity outside of YouTube. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay safe wherever you are, and bye.